Lightsaber fights are to a great deal of fans the highlight of any Star Wars project, and many of the best and worst fights in the entire franchise can be found in Star Wars: The Clone Wars. Short fights, long fights, red fights, blue fights, and each with a varying amount of lightsaber clashes, which is exactly what we will be going over today. What's going on, guys? My name is Danny, and today we'll be ranking every Clone Wars duel based on the amount of times the blades clash together. Now, just to set some ground rules for this clash count, I will only be considering lightsaber on lightsaber fights in this ranking. This means that fights against electrostaffs or vibroblades will not be counted. I am only counting the times lightsabers are either visibly clashing on screen, or if off screen, the number of times we hear the clash sound. A lightsaber lock only counts as 1, and if multiple lightsabers are locked together like this, I'm counting this as 2. If Grievous has 4 lightsabers locked onto somebody, I'm counting it as 4. And with that being said, let's see who today's big loser is. Last place on this list will be a 3-way tie: Savage vs Anakin and Obi-Wan from Season 3 Episode 14, Maul training Savage in Season 5 Episode 1, and Grievous vs Obi-Wan above Felucia from Season 5 Episode 8. These fights are all extremely short and all total up to just 2 clashes, but they're very memorable moments nonetheless. I especially like the training scene with Maul and Savage.
You have grown so powerful.
Just narrowly avoiding last place, we have another 3-way tie: Grievous vs Obi-Wan aboard the Malevolence in Season 1 Episode 4, another fight between Grievous and Obi-Wan in Season 2 Episode 10, and Tira Sinube versus this random alien who stole Ahsoka's lightsaber in Season 2 Episode 11. All 3 of these fights total up to 3 clashes. Also, shout out to this droid who saved Grievous's life here.
General, behind you!
Next, we have another 3-way tie: Obi-Wan versus Cad Bane, who was wielding Quinlan Voss's lightsaber in Season 3 Episode 9, Savage versus Pre Vizsla in Season 5 Episode 15, and Mace Windu versus Mother Talzin in Season 6 Episode 9. All 3 of these pretty cool and unique battles total up to 4 clashes. Also, Talzin's blade is cool as hell. Time for our first non-3-way tie. We have Pre Vizsla versus Obi-Wan in Season 2 Episode 12. This fight contains 5 lightsaber clashes, and is notably the first time we ever saw the Darksaber on screen. Season 3 Episode 14's training scene between Savage and Dooku takes the 28th spot on this list. This little fight shows why Dooku is the GOAT, and even foreshadows his own death, but not before exchanging 6 lightsaber clashes. 27th place goes to Ahsoka Tano and Maul's first encounter in Season 7 Episode 10. Even though Maul was hoping for Kenobi, he exchanges 7 clashes with Ahsoka. And now we have another 4-way tie this time: Ahsoka versus Ventress in the Clone Wars movie, Ahsoka versus Possessed Barriss in Season 2 Episode 8, Grievous versus Obi-Wan in Season 3 Episode 2, and Maul and Savage versus Obi-Wan in Season 4 Episode 22. All 4 of these fights come to a total of 8 clashes. The 25th spot on our clash count will be a tie between 2 Grievous fights: his fight with Nadar in Season 1 Episode 10, and his fight with Adi Gallia in Season 4 Episode 6. Both of these 9 clash battles are notable, with the first being the only time Grievous ever kills a Jedi on screen, and the second just being really funny because it's from the POV of R2 and 3PO. Next, we have another tie, being Ahsoka versus fake Jocasta Nu in Season 2 Episode 1, and Anakin versus Dooku in Season 4 Episode 4. The Ahsoka fight is pretty whatever, but I really like this fight with Dooku. The yellow Magna Guards make this scene look really cool, and of course, both of these total up to 12 clashes. Okay, surely now we're done with all the ties, right? Wrong. 23rd place in this list goes to Ahsoka versus Grievous in Season 1 Episode 7, and Ahsoka versus Pre Vizsla in Season 4 Episode 14. Both of these fights total up to 13 clashes, and both showcase Ahsoka's skill. Okay, finally getting out of all these ties, we have the other time Ahsoka fought Grievous in Season 5 Episode 9. This totally not embarrassing fight for Grievous totals up to 14 clashes before he's shot in the face. It's okay, buddy. You'll get him next time. Next up, we have Ahsoka versus Barriss disguised as Ventress from Season 5 Episode 19. This explosive fight totals up to 15 clashes before Ahsoka is framed for terrorism. Now we have yet another instance of my favorite character getting his ass handed to him: Grievous versus Nadar and Kit Fisto in Season 1 Episode 10. This example of why you should lock your doors when you're not home totals up to 17 lightsaber clashes before Grievous gets the Darth Maul treatment. And now we have a fight with Grievous winning. His fight with Eth Koth in Season 2, Episode 9 contains a little bit of assistance from his Magna Guards, but nonetheless manages to get an 18 clashes and defeat the Zabrak Jedi Master. 18th place goes to Anakin and Obi-Wan versus Asajj Ventress in Season 1, Episode 16. A fight riddled with flirting between Obi-Wan and Ventress. This fight contains a total of 19 clashes. Next up, we have another Anakin and Obi-Wan team-up fight, this time against Count Dooku in Season 6, Episode 10. This fight showcases Dooku's skill while showing how in sync Anakin is with Obi-Wan. Despite their best efforts, Dooku still slips away in the end, finishing with a clash count of 25. Another Anakin and Obi-Wan team-up, we have their fight against Ahsoka in Season 3, Episode 16. This fight from the Mortis arc has Ahsoka under the control of the Sun, and with her creepy-looking new skin routine, brings this clash count up to 26. 15th place in this list is another Maul fight, from when he challenges Pre Vizsla for the throne of Mandalore in Season 5, Episode 15. This fast-paced and intense duel pushes Maul to think on his feet against Vizsla's Mandalorian weapons, but after dealing out 27 clashes, Maul takes him down and claims the Darksaber. The Clone Wars movie is objectively a very, very ugly movie, so quite frankly, I really hated watching any fights from it, but I did it anyway, and the 14th spot on this list goes to Anakin and Dooku's desert fight. It is pretty cool to hear the voice of Christopher Lee from Dooku here though, probably the only thing about this movie that I like. Anyway, this fight totals up to 30 clashes. Speaking of Dooku, the next spot on this list goes to his fight with Anakin and Baldy Wan in Season 4, Episode 18. Anakin is really aggressive in this fight, and it's cool to see him tap into the dark side a bit here. But guess what? This is actually a three-way tie, with the other fights in the 13th place being Anakin and Obi-Wan versus Ventress in Season 3, Episode 12, and Grievous versus Kit Fisto in Season 1, Episode 10. All three of these fights contain 33 lightsaber clashes. Season 4, Episode 19 sees the exciting showdown between Grievous and Ventress. Now, I just want to say that both of these characters are wielding multiple lightsabers, meaning they tend to make counting clashes a bit difficult, especially Grievous when he uses all four. And this matchup made me reassess my method of counting clashes, as this clash right here should add up to 8. This may sound a bit ridiculous, but my method for counting blade clashes is based on the amount of times the blades cross. I've made a little diagram here to demonstrate. You may not agree with me on this, but potato potato. Despite all this counting trouble, the clash counter only comes up to 34. Another fight with Ventress, we now have her fight with Anakin in Season 3, Episode 2. A fairly uninteresting fight, quite frankly. This duel on Kamino reaches a clash count of 37 before Ventress runs away with Grievous. 10th place in this list is a real good one. Sidious and Dooku versus Yoda and Anakin in Season 6, Episode 13. Anakin takes on Dooku here while Yoda takes on Sidious. Anakin manages to get 19 hits on Dooku before giving him a haircut, and Yoda then gets 25 hits on Palpatine, totaling up to 44 before the fights end. It's also worth mentioning this whole thing was a vision for Yoda. Pretty cool. Season 3, Episode 14 contains what is probably the biggest lineup of fighters in a single fight. Ventress versus Dooku versus Savage versus Anakin and Obi-Wan. While Ventress and Savage start the fight on the same side, Savage ends up having a major crash out and decides to go solo. This segment of the fight contains 26 clashes. Ventress and Dooku then go off and fight alone, racking up a total of 11 clashes. Savage, on the other hand, is left to fight Anakin and Obi-Wan by himself, racking up 9 clashes before escaping. Even though this fight has a crazy lineup, it only totals up to 46 clashes by the fight's end. Next up, we have Ahsoka and Luminara versus Asajj Ventress in Season 1, Episode 9. Our highest ranking fight from Season 1, and a pretty good fight compared to most others from this season. This fiery duel totals up to 51 clashes. 7th place goes to our final fight for General Grievous on this list. Season 2, Episode 9 sees him once again facing Obi-Wan Kenobi, who exchanges 40 lightsaber clashes with him before Grievous crawls away like a lobster. But just when the droid general thinks he's good to go, he's blindsided by Adi Gallia, who he exchanges 12 clashes with. But as always, Grievous lives to see another day, and this fight is concluded with 52 lightsaber clashes. Next up, we have the final fight on this list from the Clone Wars movie, Asajj Ventress versus Obi-Wan Kenobi. This fight really suffers from the Clone Wars movie ugliness, but surprisingly it's made its way to the number 5 spot on this list with a total of 56 clashes. Also, what the hell is Obi-Wan doing here? The 4th place spot on this list goes to Count Dooku's highlight reel. In Season 3, Episode 12, he wakes up to 3 invisible Night Sisters wielding lightsabers, then proceeds to easily win a 1v3 in his pajamas. This scene was so badass, they put it in Battlefront 2. Not to mention he was injected with this blinding serum before the fight. Dooku finishes his fight with 62 clashes before tasing the Night Sisters and throwing them out of his window. What a legend. Dooku's the GOAT. Now we're reaching our top 3 on our clash count, and coming in for the bronze medal we have Obi-Wan and Ventress versus Maul and Savage in Season 4, Episode 22. Talk about a great season finale. This team up between Obi-Wan and Ventress feels so earned, honestly. Their banter never gets old. Tensions are super high between the two teams here. Maul obviously has a notorious rivalry with Obi-Wan, but Savage's beef with Ventress too. Obi-Wan deals out 48 clashes in this fight, whereas Ventress only deals out 16, as she does spend a lot of the fight dodging Savage without her weapon. This totals up to an impressive 64 clashes before Obi-Wan and Ventress get on out of here. Second place is actually the fight I had expected to be first place when I was creating this list, and that fight is Ahsoka versus Maul in Season 7, Episode 10. Now first of all, this fight was created with a motion capture technology, which makes this by far the most fluid and realistic looking lightsaber duel in the whole show. They even got Ray Park to come back and do the mocap for Maul. Visually, this fight is stunning, and seeing these two fan favorite characters duke it out is, for the lack of a better word, awesome. These two rack up 71 lightsaber clashes before Maul slips, falls, and has a generational crash out. First place in this list was quite a surprise to me. Our gold medalist for the Clone Wars clash count is Obi-Wan and Adi Gallia versus Maul and Savage in Season 5, Episode 1. Maul's attempt at building a pirate empire is quickly thwarted by Obi-Wan Kenobi, who puts him in his place with ease. And while Kenobi might have been keeping up with Maul, racking up 34 clashes, Adi Gallia was not so lucky. After getting a measly 21 clashes against Savage, he gives her a head-shattering stomachache. Maul and Savage then attempts to corner Obi-Wan, Maul even claiming that he's no match for them both. Maul was wrong. Obi-Wan racks up a respectable 22 clashes against the both of them before he turns Savage into a righty for the rest of his life. Maul, realizing that Obi-Wan is a certified limb stealer, ends the fight with a massive force push, giving this fight a final clash count of 77. And that concludes our clash count for the Clone Wars. Did I miss any fights? Probably. Let me know in the comments. If you'd like to see clash counts for other Star Wars shows, then make sure to hit that subscribe button. These are pretty fun to make, and I'd certainly love to keep making more in the future. And as always, my friends, may the Force be with you, and I'll catch you on the flip side.